In this session, I'm going to talk about the importance of preparation in any negotiation. Now, this is a major topic in negotiation, and it's actually one that's rarely covered in negotiation training. And part of the reason for that is that it's not very sexy, not particularly exciting to talk about preparation. But the harsh reality is that preparation will occupy a very large amount of your time when you're conducting any kind of big negotiation. So of course, let's get a little bit of the bombshell revelation out of the way. You need to prepare to do well at a negotiation. And it seems like a very obvious statement. After all, you need to prepare for anything that you might do, anything big, anything complicated that you do requires preparation. That is just logical, common sense. However, very few people really prepare well for a negotiation. And this is important because when it comes down to looking at why anything failed, why any kind of negotiation failed, why did Brexit fail, for example, very topical theme right now, you can go all the way back to preparation, and I will probably do a video about that at some later point. But right here, right now, I want to really get the message home that you absolutely need to prepare well if you want to do well at any kind of big negotiation. Now, of course, this is easier said than done. It's not always easy to figure out how to prepare. So the purpose of this video is to give you some very brief pointers. This is a big topic. I'm not going to cover it in a huge amount of depth. I will do a lot more in future videos. But right here, I want to give people some really helpful pointers to get them started if they're going to be doing any kind of negotiation and trying to figure out how to approach it. So for me, there's a really simple way of starting your preparation. And I kind of like to ask yourself the question, and I suppose got a bit of the Dirty Harry picture, and do you feel lucky? And if you don't prepare, then really you are just relying on luck. But if you'd rather not rely on luck, if you'd rather be systematic and organised, then the first question you need to ask yourself is, what do you want to achieve? What are the outcomes that you want from your negotiation, and even what it is you are negotiating? Is it some kind of commercial deal? Is it some kind of big project program? Are you negotiating with a supplier? Anything like that. So you need to have a picture in your mind as to what good looks like. And it doesn't, and this is something I always have to impress upon people. What good is not about winning. It's about achieving your goals, your objectives. Now, and many people will kind of be a bit puzzled and say, well, of course I know what I want to achieve. I want to get the deal signed and so on and so forth. But actually, I'm not talking about very simple negotiations. They're almost bargainings in some ways. And all these rules about preparation do apply equally, even in smaller types of negotiation. I'm trying to focus what really is right at the top of the scale, the high-end negotiation. And at the high-end negotiation, it's very easy to lose track of what a good objective looks like. Let's say you're doing a big engineering project, or even negotiating an international treaty. There's an awful lot of complexity in what's going on in that kind of negotiation. So when it comes to understanding what it is you want to achieve, if you take an engineering program, maybe you might want a building built. That's a very obvious statement of your needs, your objective. But actually, you've got to drill a lot further into that. What type of building? How high a quality? How robust is the building? What standards to be met? What future-proofing requirements are you going to attach? In other words, you've got to encapsulate the entirety of your requirements into this, what it is you want to achieve. And that's a significant piece of work, as any engineer or project manager will tell you. And there's no different for international treaties as well. You've got to drill down to a wide range of specialist topics and get a really good understanding of every single individual topic and what it is good looks like in that area. And then you've got to connect it all up to form an overall picture. And that is also a part that will trip a lot of people up. So on that theme, I would also say, as part of your preparation, you need to move to the second question. What it is you do know and what it is you don't know. And again, it kind of sounds obvious, but there's so many negotiations and projects that fail because they actually fail to answer these two basic questions. So of course, when it comes to the second question, what it is you know and you don't know, well, the obvious third point is you're not necessarily going to know everything about the other side. You're not going to know their negotiation position. You're not going to know their red lines, what is important to them, what are they willing to compromise on. You won't know any of that, and that's obvious, and that's fine. And the whole point is you're then going to be developing a strategy to ask them, because that's your objective. You want to know. You want to know what their red lines are. You want to know what they're willing to compromise and not willing to compromise on. So you're going to develop a strategy to find that out. But equally important, perhaps even more important, certainly at the preparation stage, what do you know and don't know about your own position? And you'll be very surprised that when you really start drilling into this sort of thing with the sort of negotiation mindset, you'll actually start to find there's an awful lot of unanswered questions, even within your own side. So really, the first thing you do as a negotiator when you're trying to prepare for any kind of negotiation is you almost do a whole process of internal negotiation. You start being a little bit like a barrister. You quiz your own side, your own experts, whether they're legal or engineering or technical or financial or anything like that. You've got to start asking them lots of questions. What do they know about what they need in their project? What do they know that they don't have and that perhaps you need to ask the other side for? What is it that they do not know? And again, what impact can that lack of knowledge have on your negotiation? Will you have to cover it up? Will you have to openly state to the other side, we don't know the answer to this, we're hoping you will help us? This is all important element of developing your negotiation strategy. So you've got to really pin down these two questions, what it is you want to achieve, and also the strategy you're going to adopt to obtain the information that you require. So drilling down a little bit further into this, into what preparation really means, there are certain outputs, and this is always true, and that obviously depends on the type of negotiation you're doing, but these outputs will always be required. You're always going to need a strategy. The strategy is what are you going to go and do, what are you going to go find out, what are you going to negotiate with the other side, how are you going to trade information, if you like, and all that sort of thing. So, and how are you going to develop your negotiation position? So you want to be in a strong position as possible. So you need to have a strategy. And what that will lead to is an opening position. You will want to put a strong opening position forward. And when I mean strong opening position, I don't mean you want to play hardball or you want to look big or assertive or anything like that. What I mean is you want to look like someone who thought of all the angles, someone who's professional. And doing that is all down to preparation. Knowing your subject matter inside and out is how you will achieve a good opening position. So when you propose something, you will know that it will sound good, that the other side will be interested in it, and they won't think that you've made a bit of a mess of it and gone at it half-cocked. You also need to understand your tradables. And your tradables are the things you're willing to compromise on. And you really should never go into a negotiation thinking you're not going to compromise on anything. Because if you're going to do that, then that's not really a negotiation. Or at least not necessarily going to be a successful one. If you're in the power, the powerful party side of thing, then you're dictating to others' terms, if you like. That's not negotiation. But if you're weak in power, and you again don't understand what it is you're willing to compromise on, you're just going to be rolled all over by the other side if they have the balance of power. So along with that comes red lines. And I talk about red lines a lot because understanding your red lines is absolutely critical. Failure to identify and protect your red lines will compromise your negotiation or any agreement that you reach and sign off on. And this can be seen everywhere. And this comes back to preparation. And this comes back to the fundamental questions. What it is you want to achieve and what it is you do and do not know. And sometimes in that process, even in the middle of the negotiation, you might suddenly have realized that you've just bumped into a red line, something that's so critical you cannot sort of go below that. And you may not even realize that before you get to the negotiation. If you find that yourself in that position, then as a general rule, that means you've missed something at preparation. Because you don't want to go to a negotiation and suddenly, improvise, suddenly have to make up, oh no, we can't agree to that. You want to know that before you ever get anywhere near the negotiation. And you want to be able to articulate that clearly, coherently to the other side. This is critical. This is red line. We cannot go below this. These are the reasons why. And a little bit as a final output. And this is a key hallmark of a collaborative negotiation. Two-way disclosure. And this is a hugely important point in any kind of collaborative as opposed to adversarial negotiation. In adversarial negotiation, you don't want the other side to have too much information. You want to preserve advantage. In a collaborative negotiation, which is generally the style you should be adopting when you're doing a really big negotiation, whether that's treaty, yes, you may be jockeying for advantage or position. You may be doing a big engineering project or negotiating with a supplier. Any of those things. But if it's a complicated issue, you have to adopt collaborative style. And the collaborative style means two-way disclosure. Technical information, financial information, costing information, deadlines, anything like that. The other side needs to understand them. Because if the other side does not have that information, how can they make good proposal to you? How can they make suggestion? How can they say, oh, we can accept that, we can't accept that? So two-way disclosure is absolutely critical, and it's best you start at the preparation stage. You start by disclosing things to each other, so when you get to the meeting, you've got a lot of information to begin your negotiation. And so the final bit of preparation that I need to talk about is stakeholder management, because this is a big theme and I will cover this more in later sessions. Obviously, there's external stakeholder management. You'll have a team that you will need to negotiate with, or individuals you need to negotiate with, and you will need to know who they are. And the other side may designate points of contacts. They may say who's the lead negotiator. They may say, here's the individual to receive all the technical document prior to negotiation, the lines of communication, all that sort of stuff. And that's obvious. But perhaps what is not so obvious to people is that internal communication, internal stakeholder management is an even bigger part of the negotiator's job than external. And that is because you have to start by establishing a core team. These are the people that will be involved all the way through, that will provide consistency, continuity, that will attend the negotiations. But they also need to understand who your wider support are, who are the wider experts that need to help you develop strategies, develop opening positions, but who may not necessarily be coming to the negotiations themselves. And this means you will have specialists as well. You need their knowledge. You need to understand the issues. Sometimes you need those specialists to come to a negotiation. And if you need them to come to a negotiation, you need to prepare them as well. They need to be team players, not go off and undermine your negotiation strategy. So everyone has to be on the same page, and that requires communication. Lots and lots of internal communication. And this may also include your approval authorities. At the end of the day, you may be negotiating something that someone else has to sign off. That someone else has to be happy to sign off on it. So you can't exclude them from the process. You need to make them feel confident that what you're going away and negotiating with the other side is credible and that they can sign up to it. So this is the final point I wish to make. Negotiation is internal as much as external, and you really do not want to underestimate that. I hope this has been helpful.